Still on Good Morning, Anambra. We welcome you now to our discussion segment. What we have, recently we heard that the legislature will have autonomy as far as finances are concerned. And then some people are saying, is it necessary? Will it enhance democracy? And so many agitations concerning that.
It will, but then another big question is it only financial autonomy that they require?
Okay, you are saying that they should be given
yes,
they should be given free hand
exactly.
to do their legislative functions. However, we want to welcome you to this discussion segment and want to talk about financial autonomy for the legislature and the judiciary. Having joined us here is Barrister George Nukwechi, a legal practitioner. George, we want to welcome you, Barrister.
Thank you very much. Yes, good morning.
It's like this your first time of coming to Good Morning, Anambra?
Yeah. Well, not really.
Not the first time.
It's certainly not the first time.
Okay.
You're welcome to the show.
You're welcome to the show.
All right.
So, what we're talking about is the legislature and the judiciary having autonomy. Do you see it as a good thing, a healthy thing to enhance democracy?
Certainly, I see it that way. I see it because it is very imperative that the judiciary, the legislature, just like the executive is independent and controls its own finances, the judiciary and the legislature ought and reasonably should control their own their own finances, so that they can act independently. Because when you hold the money through which somebody acts, you are holding that person. As it is said, he who pays the piper dictates the tune. So when the executive is holding the finances and releases it in base as he pleases it to the legislature, invariably it controls the legislature, just like it can do to the executive. By reason of that, because they can jeopardize the activities of the legislature or stop them from operating by not releasing their funds. But when the legislature is in full control of its own finances, it can dispense the money, but it has to dispense in accordance with laid down law.
Okay, with this financial autonomy, do you think that there will be a change in the way lawmakers and judicial officers go about their duties, that's their responsibilities?
Well, it is one thing to say that it will be so. It is another thing for it to be so. Because the legislature, as at today, is not acting independently. They are not showing maturity. They are not showing credibility. They are not showing that they are people who have been chosen by the constituents to go and represent them, to carry the weight, the aura of the members that elected them into the legislature to act on their behalf. So you see that they time and time again they try to placate the executive by dancing to their bidding, and that's not good. Let's just hope that by reason of their being financially independent, they will learn how to act independently and work in consonance with the mandate they have been handed over by those who have elected them to be there. And the same thing we'll talk about the judiciary. The judiciary is has all times tried to assert its own independence. And we are hoping that by reason of this financial independence being advocated and being tried to be instituted, the judiciary will act more, be fully independent, and act as holding the balance between the executive, the legislature, and even between the government and the people.
Okay.
All right. In other words, what you're saying is that they are dependent on the government to be funded is the reason why most times they don't really go about their duties effectively.
Not being funded by government, because they are at all times being funded by the government.
I mean,
but one arm of the government has been in control of their finances.
Okay.
Now, for the legislature, they must necessarily go to the governor, make application to the governor by way of memo, this and that, and ask for a release of money that has long been budgeted by the legislature for its own activities. They have to go to the governor for the release of that money. But when it is a financial autonomy, they will directly draw the money from the bank without seeking any approval from the executive. And so it's the same thing with the judiciary. The judiciary has always been funded by the government. But in them, it is the governor or the arm of the executive arm that has controlled this finance and has been releasing it in bids. For instance, when they want to buy vehicles for the use of the members of the judiciary, the judges, they will go to the governor to seek approval, which ordinarily shouldn't be. The judiciary should know the number of vehicles they want, how to service their members, so that they will put their optimum. And once that is budgeted and passed by the legislature, then it becomes free and available to the judiciary.
They become free now. Okay, the numbers are still on your screen. You can call and make contributions to what we are discussing here. Financial autonomy for the legislature and the judiciary. Let us get a little bit back.
Yeah.
What was it like when they didn't have this? Some seeming challenges. Let's start with the judiciary. To really justify this autonomy, what were the challenges that existed within the ambits of this arm of government?
Good. Now, the challenges that were and sometimes are still in existence, the challenge of having the resources to pilot their affairs, for instance, to furnish the court halls, the chambers of judges, to buy even stationaries, to furnish the offices of the courts, and make it a functional place.
And make it a functional place.
But that is not what we are seeing now.
Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Yeah, good morning. Welcome. Your name?
My name is Emeka from Nnewi.
Emeka from Nnewi. You're welcome. Financial autonomy for the legislature and judiciary. What do you say?
I say about.
Oh, it's gone. Okay, so go ahead. The judiciary.
Good.
Yes.
Now
servicing the offices.
Yes, servicing the courts. For instance, you go to some of the courts, you see that you don't even have fans functioning. The air conditioners are dissonant; they are not functional. The sitting arrangements so poor, everything poor, and then you go to judge's chamber, it's so terribly hot that you imagine how a judge will be sitting there exerting mental work in that kind of a place. The library is unequipped. Things are not good there as at today. So you need to have a lot of money that the judiciary will budget and spend for itself. Not you budget the money and at the end of it the money is not released.
Okay, could it be likely what is happening also in the legislative arm?
The legislative arm,
the challenges before now.
They may not suffer the extent the judiciary is suffering.
Okay, because they know you belong from the
no, not because of that. It's because the executive knows that the legislature can hold it here and there at different times, because they always revert.
Okay, let's revert to
legislature.
All right, let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Your name and your location, please.
This is Osofia from Northia.
Osofia from Northia.
You're welcome.
Yes.
All right, go on.
Please, this issue of financial autonomy of the legislature, we should, it's high time we adapt, because this is one of the main reasons why the executive sometimes controls the legislature time to stay. Because in some cases where if you have any case with maybe the federal government or the state government, particularly the federal government, if you have any case with government agency in court, you will see whether the case with the police will always be of either the person in power, maybe due to the fear of some.
All right, thank you so much,
Osofia. So we were doing the comparison. What the challenges were, kind of, with the judiciary, the legislature.
The legislature normally holds the executive one way or the other. When the governor or the executive, the president wants something, just like you now see as at the National Assembly. The president is now calling the leadership of the National Assembly.
They're summoning them, they must
pleading with them, not even summoning, pleading with them to reconvene, to pass a supplementary budget that will now enable the INEC to conduct the 2019 election. Now we see that they are now running to the legislature. But it is always difficult and far between for the executive to seek the intervention of the judiciary, except where they have some disputes among themselves. That's when they will come there. But time and time, the executive always has the need to revert to the legislature. And therefore, they try to placate the legislature time and time again. That's why we hear of some millions of money being dished out to them, or billions of money. And sometimes we hear of bribery being given to them. You have not heard, nor is it a common thing or common day story that the executive is bribing the judiciary.
Okay, in other words, the judiciary suffers more.
The judiciary is the weakest from the present practices. And therefore, there is need for them to have financial autonomy. Not just having the financial autonomy, but fully and well financed.
So what's likely is the benefit, and will it enhance the democracy in Nigeria?
Invariably. So now, for instance, let me talk about the judiciary. When the judiciary is properly funded and independently left to manage their finances, they will be able to prepare. They have equipment with which to work. Now, you see today, you go to our courts, you see the judges writing with long hand, everything they'll have to record. And you imagine when the judge begins to sit from 9 till 4 in the evening, writing, how will he be able to write all that the people have spoken, instead of having assistants, things, technological assistants that will help him to record everything that people will say and speak in that court. Now, that may interfere with the judicial activities of the judge, because sometimes he may not be able to record everything, because he is the human being. He may not record everything, or he may be so weak and tired after a long stenographic writing. You understand? And then, of course, you need to equip that place so that the judge.
Now, the benefits.
I'm talking about the benefits. I'm talking so that the judge will be there dispensing justice truly and in all sincerity. Dispense justice, because there his chamber will be properly furnished. He will have a good library. He will have all the technological assistance. Everything will be available to him that will enable him to know what the law is saying as at today, when he is sitting over a matter, considering the judgment, assessing the case. He will be aware of all the current authorities, not reverting to authorities.
It's like Chidima is frowning to me, because you are being sentimental here. You are being sentimental.
No, it's not being sentimental. We are talking reality. No, we are talking reality. We are talking of what will be beneficial to all, because the judiciary is where everybody reverts to.
Okay.
If you are oppressing me now, I revert to the judiciary.
The hope of a common man. The last hope of a common man.
If I am oppressing you, you revert to that judiciary. So everybody, even when the governor is being oppressed, when the governor feels threatened, he still runs to the judiciary.
But then,
that's why it is a very important place where we must pay attention to.
Yes, fine. It's where we must pay our attention to. But then we've been hammering on funding. Is it funded? Is it the only challenge that the judiciary and the legislature are facing today that make them they are not optimally performing as they are supposed to?
No, presently we are not assessing the performance of the judiciary. We are talking about.
We are
talking about their their challenges in relation to finances.
Okay.
Now, that's why we are saying that the absence of proper funding and independence has really hindered their operation.
Could it be a last word to this discussion?
All right.
Well, my last word to this discussion will be, let the judiciary and the legislature have their financial independence.
Because that will
More so the judiciary, and let the judiciary be
You say you are being sentimental.
let
Only
the
the
judiciary be properly funded so that they will dispense justice to all
Whatever that
without fear and favor.
Thank you
without
very much.
calling the favor of the executive.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much,
between
Barrister George and
the
the
arms
Chief
of
for really
government.
coming. You've really shown that you are really a legal practitioner and you want to protest your constituency very well.
No, we are not trying to present.
Okay,
this at
that has been financial autonomy to the legislature and the judiciary. Well, there is much to talk on that. I hope we're going to bring it back some other time because we
Definitely,
expand
we will.
on the issue.